peace and the chance to return home. These are the hopes of Rohingya Muslims in this camp in southern Bangladesh during Pope Francis's visit to Myanmar. Since August, more than 600,000 Rohingya Muslims have fled military violence, described as ethnic cleansing by the UN. This refugee says the Pope will bring peace to the region during his visit and will help Rohingya Muslims return home legally or relocate elsewhere. And this man says Rohingyas hope the Pope will see their plight and understand what they have to say to him. He hopes the Pope can have a dialogue with Myanmar's government and bring about peace. He says Rohingyas are suffering a lot and are so worried, but they are grateful for the Pope's visit. The Pope is to meet Myanmar's de facto leader Aung San Suu Kyi and the head of the country's military. He will then go to meet a group of Rohingya Muslims in Bangladesh during the second leg of his 6-day visit.
The new Miss Universe is South Africa!
In a typically sparkling event at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, Demi Lee Nel-Peters was crowned as the new Miss Universe. The seemingly delighted business management graduate is 22 and from South Africa, and she's the first Miss South Africa to be born after the country's first democratic elections in 1994. Demi Lee was among 92 women vying for the title, the most contestants ever.
Barbados.
The musical entertainment, the singer Fergie sang her single, A Little Work. The runner-up was Miss Colombia, Laura Gonzalez, and the second runner-up was Miss Jamaica, Davina Bennett.
Talk about a Mexican standoff. The UK's International Trade Secretary Liam Fox says the issue of the Irish border post-Brexit can't be solved until the EU agrees to move talks onto trade. Brussels wants things to be dealt with the other way around.
We can't get a final answer to the Irish question until we get an idea of the end state. And until we get into discussions with the European Union on the end state, that will be very difficult. So the quicker that we can do that, the better.
Northern Ireland is the only part of the UK that will share a land border with an EU state after Brexit. There are fears a return to border checks could hurt peace on the island and the economy. In The Observer, Ireland's EU Commissioner said his country was ready to veto any trade talks until it has enough guarantees. He said the issue would be solved if Northern Ireland remained in the EU customs union. But Prime Minister Theresa May has made it clear Britain will leave the union in 2019. And the Northern Irish Party propping up her government, the Democratic Unionist Party, wants to follow the same rules as the rest of the UK.
We will not support any arrangements that create barriers to trade between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK, or any suggestion that Northern Ireland, unlike the rest of the UK, will have to mirror European regulations.
Brussels wants to see sufficient progress made on the issue before EU leaders agree to begin talks on a new trade relationship during a summit next month.
Cuba's taking another step towards the end of the Castro era, with millions of residents voting for ward delegates to municipal assemblies. The poll comes the day after the first anniversary of the death of revolutionary leader Fidel Castro. It also precedes another vote next February for provincial and National Assembly deputies. The new National Assembly, where 50% of the deputies must be ward delegates, is expected to select a new president to replace Raul Castro, Fidel's 86-year-old younger brother, who said he'll step down after serving 2 5-year terms.
In the presidential election in Honduras, the incumbent Juan Orlando Hernandez on the left is claiming victory over his main rival Salvador Nasrallah on the right. Hernandez is expected to benefit from a Supreme Court ruling in 2015 which overturned a previous ban on holding a second term. Exit polls are suggesting he has almost 44% of the vote. Nasrallah, who leads the broad left-right coalition, the opposition alliance against the dictatorship, is polling around 35%, but insists they could still win the presidency. But former President Manuel Zelaya is especially angry. He was forced into exile by the army 8 years ago when he suggested having a referendum on a constitutional change to allow second-term presidencies. Hernandez has campaigned on his success at lowering the murder rate in Honduras. Nasrallah has pledged to end many years of poverty, violence and corruption. 6 million voters will also be electing members of Congress and mayors.
Nearly 24 civilians are reported to have been killed as Syria increases its effort to take the last major rebel-held enclave outside Damascus. According to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, the toll could rise further, as many more people were hurt by artillery shelling on the eastern Ghouta district. The British-based group says at least 127 people, including 30 children, have been killed since the Syrian army, backed by Russian jets, began its offensive nearly 2 weeks ago. Eastern Ghouta is one of several so-called de-escalation zones across western Syria, where Russia has broken deals to ease the fighting between rebels and President Bashar al-Assad's government. It comes on the eve of the start of UN-backed peace talks, which are due to begin in Geneva on Tuesday. Several previous rounds of negotiations have failed to agree a political transition for Syria or a way to stop the violence.
E assim aqui nós apresentamos a notícia internacional. Nós passa para break comercial e agora nós back é deporte.